So I didn't say anything about it at the time because I was literally directly ordered by Scarlett to not do anything on my birthday. I had to go and get happy, and now I can't be a fucking workaholic. But 2 days ago, July 31st, was my birthday. And sure, I got plenty of nice stuff, and I loved my birthday. My birthday went great. My girlfriend's family gave me an entire box of peach-flavored snacks and candy. Like, I have a whole bag of gummies right off camera right here. But I wanted to specifically highlight a couple of the gifts that I ended up getting. Like, 98% of them are from Scarlett, but then I'm going to show you one that my parents got. Okay, so first of all, I've stated on here multiple times that one of the things that I desperately hunt for and try to find is Green Lantern lanterns. Like genuine, real train lanterns that look like Green Lantern lanterns, so then I can paint them and turn them into that. Guys, look at this. I don't know how the hell Scarlett found this, but this is almost the same fucking shape as a Green Lantern logo. I've hunted for this shit for years. She found it in one. My lady's talented. I don't know what to tell you. She also got me this super limited edition Young Justice Teen Titans Alex Ross plate. I absolutely love Alex Ross, and this is a super limited series. I don't want to take it out. I don't trust my stuff with breakable shit. She got me new shoes. She got me a sugar tray for my coffee addiction. She got me this super exclusive Black Panther pop that's already out in my office. Oh, and this wasn't made for my birthday. She made me this for Christmas, but because we were moving, I never got the chance to show it off. Check this shit out. She made me a full-on Panda red onesie. This is fucking awesome. She made this from scratch because I could never find a onesie that I wanted, and she was able to fully make this. And now I'm just gonna spend the day lazing around in it because it is adorable and warm, and Scarlett is the best and I love her. But there's one last thing I wanted to show you guys. This is the thing that my parents got me. They got me a complete box of sealed DC cards. Not just any, these are DC cards from the 90s, and we know Lobo is one of these cards. Now I want it stated out front. I don't give a shit about reselling. Never have, never will. I have toys. I'm gonna open the fucking toys so I can display them. We have a whole bunch of them in our front room right here. We have even more on our shelves up here. Reselling isn't a worry. I open boxes. However, there's 150 cards in here, and literally none of these packs have ever been opened. I don't know if I should open these. I desperately want to. I want to find that fucking Lobo card, but there's so many. This feels like tearing through a museum. So I want y'all's opinion. Do you think that I should open these cards, or should I just leave them be? Know that I probably have one in there somewhere. Let me know in the thing. Alright, so currently I am just waiting on my computer. Every couple of months I realize that I need to clean up my my computer space so that my PC can continue to function. And right now I'm transferring over a file from one drive to another that has all of the YouTube compilations I've ever posted on it, which is a really weird way to find out that equates to 400 gigabytes of data. That's just the MP4s. That's not even the project files. God, I gotta get better about doing this shit. God damn. Anyway, I have about an hour until that transfer is done, so welcome back to Regrettable Superhero of the Week, the weekly not weekly show where I take one character at random out of the League of Regrettable Superheroes and then I run them the fuck down. Let's see what we are getting today. Alright, last time it was fucking awesome, so you better give me someone, and it's Captain Tootsie. It's Captain Tootsie. I don't even need to fucking know who Captain Tootsie is. Captain Tootsie? Watch me eat my words and this dude be badass. That is just Flash Gordon. That is you couldn't even make him a little different. That's just Flash Gordon drawn in the style of Tintin. Are we on Mars? Cause that's Earth. Nope, I'm just illiterate. It's Venus. Captain Tootsie's just really good at holding his breath. Huh. Well, I can see why he decided to wear the t-shirt, and why his ship seems to be melting in the background. And he's an ad. Yep, he's an ad. Captain Tootsie was created by C.C. Beck and Pete Costanza in assorted titles across 1943. C.C. Beck and Pete Costanza are also key individuals in the creation and story publication of the original Captain Marvel, also known as Shazam. Captain Tootsie is just a superhero made to market Tootsie Rolls. No, I'm not kidding. That's how he gets his powers. He just Pops Tootsie Rolls.
Tootsie Rolls, infamous for granting a stellar physique.
You know in the end of old G.I. Joe and Transformers shows, they would have that little section of, like, the knowing is half the battle, where they taught, like, general life skills and such. Yeah, well, that was kind of Captain Tootsie's whole thing. He'd have single-page adventures where he would teach kids very useful information for the time. Also, apparently, once he taught them how sniper rifles work, which I don't even want to think about. And apparently he got so popular that he had his own comic book eventually. However, not successful enough for it to last, because that comic book only had 2 issues, and in both of them he traveled to some different stellar body. One being Venus, and the other being the asteroid belt. Yeah, he's just kind of boring Flash Gordon powered by Tootsie Rolls, if I'm gonna be honest. There's like 1,000 other characters that are almost exactly like this. I mean, without the gimmick of the Tootsie Rolls, but I don't think that's a make or break sort of thing. In the end, Captain Tootsie is the worst thing that you can be as a superhero. He's honestly just kind of boring.
People who work on the original Captain Marvel need to stop making other superheroes, man.
I don't think I've seen a single one that wasn't regrettable. So I want to do a little bit of a story time with you guys. I am of Scottish descent, so growing up, my grandparents and I would always go to the Highland Games. They're essentially like a Scottish-themed Ren fair that popped up in my state every now and again. For literally as long as I can remember, since I was a kid, we would go to these Highland Games every year. And on one of my first ones, we stopped by this booth that was making necklaces. They would take a little chunk of metal and they would smash an imprint into it, and then they would tie it on a string and they would give it to you. It was like an old style, like, press. And over the years, as both me and my grandparents got older, we started going to these events less and less. But I held on to that necklace, and I actually wore it every single day. Some of you might have realized there's always this little black string on my neck. It is the necklace that I got with my grandparents at the Ren Fair. Well, Highland Games, you know what I mean. Because it means a lot to me. It's a very fond memory. I want to keep that close. Specifically, it was this necklace. It has a dragon on one side and then a Leo sign on the other. The thing is, at the time, we got the cheap option. We got the bronze one. So believe it or not, I was making a video and I got a comment saying, "Oh my God, that's my family's necklace. That's the necklace that my family made." And I got into contact with this commenter, and I shit you not, the company that made the necklace for me back when I was a kid, the family that runs that stand, found me on TikTok and completely free of charge offered me a gold one. And even though they have a huge list of options of stuff that you can put on this necklace, literally, I have the catalog right here. There's like 3 pages of different imprints that you can put on these necklaces. I decided to go with the classic Dragon and Leo that I had before. So I just want to give a special thank you to Somewhere Beyond Coin Mint and the family that works there for supplying me with an updated version of this very cherished memory to me. I'm still gonna hold on to this, but I'm probably not going to wear it because I don't want to corrode it anymore. If you have the time, and if you want something like this, I suggest you guys go and check them out. You can find them at that QR code right there, or you can go to mythicalmetals.com. If you have the ability, if you want a necklace like the one I have, go and check them out. Thank you guys again, and I honestly think this might be the first piece of gold jewelry that I own now. See you on the next one. So me and Scarlett were talking the other day, and we came up with a bit of a headcanon regarding Jason Todd. You see, at least in his post-crisis origin, Jason Todd used to smoke cigarettes as a kid. Now I'm gonna put this out front. Don't smoke if you don't need to. It's not good for you, it doesn't make you look cool, and it probably will end up killing you. Needless G.I. Joe PSA out of the way, Jason Todd used to smoke as a kid, and this has been shown in more than one comic. However, it's never brought up again after he comes back as Red Hood. It was exclusively a thing that happened when he was a kid. Now, here's where the headcanon comes in. It is a twofold headcanon. 1, he smokes the same brand that his mother did. Initially, that meant that he smoked the same cigarettes as his second mother, the one he grew up with and ultimately died before he ever became Robin. However, after he comes back as Red Hood, I think that means that he smokes Sheila Haywood's cigarettes. Because we know she smokes, but why do I say that he switches? Well, initially, he smoked the same reason that most kids smoke. He never really gives a reason, but he just smoked. And the likelihood is that he probably got them from around the house at first. However, the smell of the cigarettes that Sheila Haywood smoked is very specifically tied to a very traumatic incident, because she smoked them as he was being beat to death. And if you wanted to tie Jason's smoking back into him as an adult, I would say the way you could do it is this. He smokes Sheila Haywood's brand of cigarettes when he comes back as Red Hood because he wants to keep himself angry. The smell of those cigarettes reasonably would trigger a PTSD response. But he wants to be in that moment. His entire battle in Under the Red Hood is fueled by that singular moment in his history. And if he gives himself too much time to think, too much time to forgive what happened in that moment, then what he's planned so long to do can never come to fruition. He can never get his vengeance. He can never get the answers that he wanted because he will forgive it. He will move on. Because thanks to a later comic, we all know Jason Todd's best case scenario in his own head is being accepted by and living with the Bat family free of any pain. So what if he smokes the same brand as Sheila to keep himself in that pain? Because if he doesn't, he'll never be able to get the answers that he wants in that moment. It's a terrible coping strategy. It's extremely painful for him. But not only would it keep him in that moment, but it would also make him appear older to the people around him. This person's experienced at smoking. They're not choking on it. This isn't a kid faking it. This is someone who did this for comfort. This is a very angry, very big motherfucker who is doing this because he feels like he needs to. I don't know, just an idea. Thought you guys might like to hear it. I feel like because the modern comics don't talk about it very much, and most people's knowledge of Jason Todd comes from the Under the Red Hood animated movie, most people don't know what actually happened in the comic. I already made a video forever ago talking about the weirdness of the rest of Death in the Family, but just talking about the death of Jason Todd, people don't really know what happened around his death outside of Joker beats him with a crowbar and he dies. So let's go over exactly why Jason Todd is one of the most tragic fucking characters in comic book history. After being Robin for a number of months, Jason Todd starts to get a little bit too blasé about his duty. He's a little too violent. He's a little too eager to go after people. He's disregarding Batman's orders and neglecting the necessary steps to do the job that they're doing. So Batman, talking with Alfred, decides that they are going to bench Jason for a while. Something that Jason very much does not like. While brooding about this, he walks about Gotham until he winds up back where he grew up, the childhood home he grew up in, and one of the tenants there hands him a bunch of stuff. It's a bunch of his old stuff from the apartment building. And in there is a piece of paper that has two signatures, his father and his mother. His father is exactly who he thinks he is, but the mother line is smudged out, but it starts with an S. And Jason Todd's mom, at least the one he grew up with, doesn't start with an S. So he goes back to Wayne Manor with this piece of paper, and he starts looking up women who would be about the age that his mother would be, who start with an S. And he gets 3 names. All of them are out of the country, so Jason steals the Robin costume and leaves the fucking country and just leaves a note behind telling Batman, I'm going after my mother. At the same time as all of this is happening, the Joker purchases a warhead and flies off to the Middle East. Batman finds out about both of these situations at the same time and has to decide which one he goes after. He picks the warhead because even though at this time in the comics Batman was less of a shitty dad, the Joker with a warhead's a big fucking deal. During this, there's a lot of gallivanting around the Middle East in which Batman and Jason actually meet back up and end up going after 2 of Jason's potential mothers. By the way, one of those potential mothers is Lady Shiva, which lends a lot of credence to the fact that Jason Todd is probably a POC. Anyway, they whittle it down to one person, someone named Sheila Haywood. Sheila Haywood is helping with some humanitarian efforts, and after meeting her, Bruce kind of lets them be. He feels like he just lost a Robin, but he feels like this is the best case scenario for Jason. He found his mother. A family is reunited. Here's the problem. Joker saw Batman and Jason gallivanting around going after the other 2 options and learned who the third one was and got to her first. Turns out the reason that she left Gotham is because she had some shady fucking past back there. And she has actually been skimming off the top of the humanitarian efforts that she's currently involved in. And Joker is threatening to out that if she doesn't help him. Help him means he's going to be stealing her medicine and he's actually replacing it with Joker serum, which is all kinds of fucked up. During one of his check-ins in which he is replacing the medicine with Joker toxin, Jason Todd spots the Joker, who he thinks is kidnapping his mother. Or fucking with her in some way. Jason thinks that the Joker has cornered his mom and is making her do bad shit. So Jason gets his mom to the side and goes, hey, I can protect us, I can save us. I'm Robin. And since Sheila is from Gotham and knows who Batman and Robin is, she recognizes what that means. And instead of accepting Jason's help and instead of getting the fuck out of there, she takes Jason to the Joker. And she stands there and watches and smokes a fucking cigarette while she watches her son get beaten nearly to death in front of her. And then the Joker goes, Bats isn't gonna like this when he gets back, so I'm a dip, but I should probably tie up any loose ends. So, hey boys, tie up her. And she gets tied up in the same warehouse as Jason, who is comatose because he just got beaten with a crowbar for minutes on end. Timer on the bomb that the Joker just placed starts going off, and Sheila thinks that they're both about to die. But oh no, Jason Todd's a good fucking guy and picks his broken fucking body up off the floor and unties her, saying, "I'll save you, Mom, please." And they make their way to the door, but uh-oh, the Joker locked it. What are we gonna do? And then the fucking building explodes. Batman gets a feeling after wrapping up some trouble that he was dealing with that something terrible has happened. And he goes back to where he knew Jason was. And when he finds the smoking remains of the warehouse that they were in, he finds Sheila first, who says that Robin tried to save her, that Jason was a true hero. And then she fucking dies. Did I mention the fact that Bruce never learns what actually happened? He never learns that Sheila had anything to do with this. Joker never fucking tells him. Jason never fucking tells him. The only person who knew how he was betrayed, how he was tormented is Jason fucking Todd, and he's not telling anybody. Oh. God, TikTok took away my 3-minute feature, and I'm gonna make it everybody's problem. So, the reason that people don't talk about Tim Drake the same amount that they talk about, like, Dick Grayson and Jason Todd can kind of be pinned on the fact that Tim Drake hasn't graduated as Robin yet. Yeah, he's Red Robin, but he's not his own thing. Dick Grayson is the first Robin. He's the first guy who did it. He set the fucking benchmark. And he eventually became essentially like the Superman for the next generation of DC superhero. Right now, he's leading the Titans that kind of took over for the Justice League. He's got a lot of interesting history. He's got a lot of interesting stuff in his story that happens after he leaves the role of Robin. Jason Todd was killed by fans and has an extremely tragic life story leading up to where he is now. Tragedy sells. He's an edgy character. He's got a really sad backstory. People love that shit. His journey is one of growth and of healing, bettering oneself from the darkness that they came from. Also, because he's basically the middle child, people like to talk about his time as Robin because it's usually overlooked. Tim Drake appeared almost immediately after Jason Todd died. And pretty consistently, except for like a few divergence here and there, Stephanie Brown pops up for a little while. Until Damian Wayne, Tim Drake is Robin. That's multiple fucking decades of him being this character. Like, by far the longest person to hold the mantle was Dick Grayson, who had it for 44 real-life years. He literally debuted in Batman #1 and didn't give up the role until the 80s. Jason Todd held it for the shortest amount of time. He only had it for 4 years in real time. And Tim Drake had it for 20. And that's when he first gave it up in 2009. Not talking about Red Robin or when he started reusing it in 2019. Damian Wayne has held it for a long-ass time, and he has only had it for 15 years. The only person who was Robin for shorter was Stephanie Brown, who only had it for 10 weeks. So for as long as we have been discussing different Robins, Tim Drake's kinda just been Robin. Or he's been Red Robin, who sports variations of this costume. And yes, I'm aware that not all of his costumes are red, yellow, and green with short sleeves. I'm saying that all of his costumes look like some variation of Robin. Unlike Nightwing and Jason Todd, who had completely different costumes. The one time Tim Drake got his own costume, everybody made fun of it for being Batman with no ears. So, I mean, personally, from my perspective, I think that the reason people don't talk about Tim Drake is that dude never really stopped being Robin. So much shit happened in between the times that he became Robin and stopped being Robin, which kinda hasn't stopped yet, that it's kinda hard to discuss who he is and what his adventures entail. For a very long time, he was kind of just personified as like the perfect Robin. He was the perfect partner for Batman. He was the second greatest detective in the world. Genius level intellect, natural leader. Sure, he got a little super villainy mad scientist type at times, but for the most part, he was kind of Batman's perfect sidekick. And then Damian showed up and was like Batman's antithesis, and that was more interesting to read. As divisive as Damian is, it shook shit up. You had Dick Grayson, who was the first one. You had Jason Todd, who got killed in the most traumatic fucking way possible. Tim Drake, who kind of set a status quo for 20 fucking years. And then Damian Wayne, who shook up the status quo. Dick Grayson was the first one, so people will always talk about him. Jason Todd was the tragic one, so people will always talk about him. Damian Wayne shook up the status quo, so people will always talk about him. And Tim Drake is just kind of Robin. Hell, for a significant portion of his run, he had both of his parents. Things had to be thrown into his story to make them more out there. His father's abusive. His father's fucking dead. Now he's adopted by Batman. Now he's Timothy Drake Wayne. He tries to clone Superboy. He tries to get into a relationship with Cassandra. Now he's bisexual. If you talk shit about bisexual Tim in my comments, I'm blocking you. I'm in a different room now. I went to get food. People don't talk about Tim as much because of a number of reasons. He's not less interesting than the rest of them. It's that the rest of them are so immensely, densely layered and interesting that it makes it hard to talk about Tim, who has his own stories, who has his own struggles, who has his own layers. But he's put in between the most tragic Robin of all time and the Robin who shook up the status quo. And the only other two Robins to talk about outside of that is the literal first one and the one that died within 10 weeks, which kind of puts him at the bottom of the totem pole. I got to put a fucking limiter on these videos. 4 minutes, Christ! Oh my God, I want to talk about this. This is such a persistent rumor around Jason Todd. And yes, I said rumor because there's no fucking evidence of that! This rumor comes from Denny O'Neil saying in one interview that he heard somewhere that happened. I have got so many of these fucking comments on my last Jason Todd video. No, someone did not set up an auto dialer that ended up going over half of the votes. Even if they did, which they most likely didn't, Denny O'Neil said it was at max 85 votes, which given the difference between Jason living and dying was 72. So yeah, he might have pushed him over the edge a little bit. If that fucking happened, which again, there is no evidence of. There's a TikTok that I'm going to tag in the description of this video by a creator named Jossie G that goes over all of this. Most of what I am saying is reiterated from her video. However, the Jason Todd number, it was a toll number. You had to pay. Calculating the 85 votes, just the 85 votes that might have been sent, it would have been over $40 in the 80s for them to call in and kill this child. If DC put out a vote today, would you be willing to spend $100 to off Tim Drake? I very much doubt anybody would, and especially the fact that this is an old system. This isn't an auto dial set up off of your fucking gaming rig with your perfectly set up PC. No, this is auto dialing after an old ass Macintosh, meaning that this supposed murderous auto dialer would have been set up on one of these. I'm not angry at this commenter. I'm angry at this rumor. Because if you are in Jason Todd fan circles, this is the most common thing you have ever heard. Not only was Jason Todd killed by a fan vote, it ended up being just one dude who called in a whole bunch of fucking times. The literal only evidence that this rumor is entirely based upon is the writer of the story saying that he heard somewhere that someone might have done that with absolutely no evidence. Nobody has come forward. We don't have a name. We don't have the computer. Denny O'Neil heard somewhere that it might have happened. And this is on the basis of a whole bunch of other rumors like DC rigged the vote or like DC was going to put it out anyway or any of these other variety of things. The vote was so fucking close. It was 72 votes off. And yes, at max, the auto dialer that might have possibly existed put in 85 of those, meaning it might have pushed it over the edge. But let's not pretend that there weren't over 5,000 votes. 10,614 people voted for this poll. 5,343 of those votes were to kill him. The mysterious auto dialer that nobody can tell me where the fuck he was, responsible for 85 of them. Even if Jason lived, they were going to write him out of the role of Robin. That's actually confirmed. We do know that. Jim Starlin, the guy who was writing the Batman comics, fucking hated Jason Todd. Both Jim Starlin and Denny O'Neil fucking hated Jason Todd. Neither of them even really liked the role of Robin, period. So Jason was never going to continue as Robin. And even if he didn't die, they still wrote and drew a story where Joker beats a child nearly to death, then tries to blow him up in the 80s. This is Comics Code approved. The horror of Jason Todd's story does not fall on one person calling in a whole bunch of times, which again might not actually be true. The horror of Jason Todd's story comes from the fact that this was something that writers decided. This was a choice made by writers and artists and 5,000 people. At the end of the day, that is where the blame lies. It lies with the people that decided it, not the one guy. assigning the death of Jason Todd to some random dude and giving him all of the blame for why Jason died, that doesn't help the situation. Realizing that this was a decision, this was a choice, made by not one person, but a multitude of different people. That's what makes this story horrifying. That's what makes the real life story of a death in the family terrifying. And if I'm at all wrong about this, please tell me I'm wrong. Show me the evidence. Show me where we have confirmed that this actually happened. Because to my knowledge and my research, it didn't. Or at the very least, we have absolutely no confirmation that it did. Hello. I have, in fact, not died. I had family stuff I was doing for the last 2 days, but that's resolved now. While handling that family stuff for the last 2 days, I actually got to sit down and watch a movie that I have been wanting to see for a very long amount of time. When were y'all planning to tell me that this movie kicks every kind of ass possible? This movie has 2 Robins, Cassandra Cain, Cthulhu, Etrigan. It's like all the coolest dark parts of DC. Why was no one gonna tell me about this? For those of you not in the know, like I was for a very long amount of time, Batman: The Doom That Came to Gotham is a animated DC movie that puts Batman in the Cthulhu universe. Or Cthulhu is put in the Batman universe. It's an Elseworld story where Batman is in the 1920s and Cthulhu is there. Or like Lovecraftian deities. It's not actually Cthulhu, they mentioned Cthulhu, but it's Lovecraftian Batman. Jason Todd is in this movie reimagined as a ship hand named Sanjay Todd, spelt like this. And he acts exactly like Robin Jason Todd, like almost identical to Robin Jason Todd. There is insanely cool reimaginings of like Killer Croc, Mr. Freeze, Ra's al Ghul, and it's honestly one of the most tragic Batman movies I've watched in a while. So yeah, totally unsponsored, but go watch Batman: The Doom That Came to Gotham. It's based on a Mike Mignola comic and it kicks all kinds of ass. I would like just maybe like 1 month, maybe a month. You know what? I'll be generous. Like 2 weeks. Where like nothing fucking happens. Is this what being an adult is like? Is it just figuring out that shit's fucked all the time? That silence I always hear adults craving is that just the hope that shit stops happening for like 10 fucking seconds? I didn't post for like nearly a week because shit in my house was fucked. I almost had to move again. It's resolved now. It's fixed now. But like, god damn, I haven't been able to put out a comic book club video in a month, and then today my fucking computer is running at the speed of a goddamn snail! Also, that's fixed now. Just 3 days. Can I get 3 days where like nothing happens? What am I talking about? If that happened, I'd go fucking crazy. Anyway, this intro's gone too long. Welcome back to Regrettable Superhero of the Week, the weekly, not weekly show where I pick one character at random out of the league of regrettable superheroes, and then I run them the fuck down. I don't know why I showed the screen. The thing's not on the screen yet. There we go. Let's see who we are getting today. I would just love someone good. I got a lot of aggression this week to get out onto some stupid fucking Jigsaw. Like the puppet? Oh my god, I wish it was as simple as the puppet. What is that? Is that his fucking muscle? You are not about to sit here and tell me that this man's body comes apart in jigsaw pieces and that his muscles stretch out like Mr. fucking Fantastic to do shit. What is that face? What is the face you are making, man? I am really fucking hoping that this character is not based in body horror, but it seems extremely likely. I am 100% correct. This character is terrifying and disgusting. Jigsaw was created by Joe Simon and Otto Binder. Yes, Captain America Joe Simon, and yes, Captain Marvel Otto Binder, as well as a guy named Bill Drought, in Jigsaw Comics #1 of Harvey Comics in September of 1966. Jigsaw's real name is Colonel Gary Johnson. He is a colonel in the Earth Space Force and is the pilot of Stargazer 1, which is an exploratory vessel. Aliens in space using a magnetic cone to be able to pick up, and I quote, rocks, trees, and animals from remote Siberia, accidentally catches Stargazer 1 in the magnetic beam, and in doing so, almost fucking kills Gary. The aliens, not wanting to be seen as hostile, hastily put him back together. Except for the fact that his body is basically beyond repair, so they replace it with stretchy mechanical tendons, and his skin is replaced with interlocking metal plates. When the plates are disconnected, he can then use these stretchy tendons to extend his limbs. So for those of you following along at home, yes, those are his muscles, and yes, his skin just comes apart to expose them. He's also, way stronger than he was before. Yeah, his girlfriend, upon seeing him, meets him with just screaming. No, I'm not exaggerating. And the Space Force legitimately thinks that he's been replaced with an alien, so he just is stuck in space forever. He spends like 90% of his time fighting evil aliens, and then he participates in the Interplanetary Olympics and falls to pieces, and has subsequently never been heard from again. Oh my god, what the fuck? What the fuck? What the fuck? Joe, Otto, Bill, yeah.
What the fuck are y'all on? That's terrifying, and tragic, and terrible. It doesn't even say how many fucking issues this guy has.
He's also apparently Comics Code approved. Can't have cleavage. Batman and Robin need girlfriends. Superman can't have superpowers, but you know, the guy whose skin breaks apart into different pieces and his muscles stretch out all over the goddamn place. That's perfectly fine. This guy would be a great horror book. Honestly, I think this would be an awesome horror comic. But it can't be a superhero comic. This is not a superhero. This is a tragic thriller character at the absolute very best. I am giving him a seal of approval on conditions. Those conditions being just make him intentionally scary, maybe. All right, back to work. I got bills to pay. So I've seen this question asked a couple of times in my comments. Why is Jason remembered as this sort of ideal Robin if he simply wasn't? And that comes from the fact that there's a lot of conflicting opinions about Jason's time as Robin. Some people say he was the ideal Robin, just the absolute perfect embodiment of the character, and other people remember him as being brash and rude and violent. And the answer to this is pretty simple. The multiple writers that were writing Batman stories where Jason was involved had different opinions on whether Jason was a good character or not. For instance, in his run in Detective Comics, Jason is portrayed as being a well-meaning kid. He's nice and excited, and he loves being Robin. He has entire storylines with villains dedicated to him and his upbringing, like the one with Nocturna, which is one of Scarlet's favorite runs and Scarlet's favorite character. And then there's other runs, like his run in Batman, where the writer really fucking didn't like him. In fact, the writer for that series didn't like the idea of Robin to begin with. So he kind of wrote Jason as this bullheaded dickhead that nobody really liked, which conflicted with the fact that in Detective Comics, he's shown as the perfect Robin. Batman is where we get stories like Jason maybe pushing a guy off a roof. It's also the book that Death in the Family took place in. And originally, that would be the simplest answer. Before Jason came back as Red Hood, there were different opinions on his run as Robin, and different writers wrote him differently depending on the book that he was in. However, now that he's come back as a full-time character, there are retroactive stories being written during his time as Robin. And the general consensus is kind of mixing those two versions, which is really hard to do because they're almost in direct conflict with one another. You can't be the perfect embodiment of what Robin is supposed to be and also be a violent sociopathic kid who doesn't take orders. Those two stand in conflict with one another. However, as time has gone on, those retroactive stories have painted Jason more as a good Robin, if not a great Robin. Most times when Bruce talks about Jason as Robin now, he doesn't talk of him as a brash, impulsive kid. He talks about him like he was exactly what Robin was meant to be. So to answer the question in a much shorter fashion, it's because he was a good Robin, except for when writers didn't like him. And unfortunately, most of his most famous stories and the stories that get referenced the most often are stories that were written by writers who didn't like him. Namely, The Guy on the Roof and Jason's Death.
And that is going to be it for this month. Thank you all so much for watching. Thank you for your patience. I just want to take a moment to thank all of my lovely, lovely patrons over on Patreon. Adam Laird, Amanda Barnstead, Andra Lanowitz, Bilbro, Brandon Bilbrey, Brandon Laney, Brian Van Vorst, Carol Cowett, Christopher Bosgard, Danny Walker, Dark Nimbus, Dee Dee, Dominic Viculo, Dragonfang, Elizabeth Rush, Gamer Zoom, Gas Boss Gatelight Girlkeep, Have a Heart Tin Man, Jacob Safel, Jeffrey Aviles, Jeremy Strickland, Caitlin Norman, Kat Q, Kathy Coker, KJ Wilson, Ma Goo, Max Baker, Nixie Shimo, Pandora A, Pinchy Mugray, Raymond Villasana, Righteous Duke, Ricky Tiki Davi, Shadow Spike, Simply Smithy Jr., Silver Bullets 23, Tangled Web, The Brain Teaser, The Holy Kuroda, Thomas Randolph, Toybox, TS Famder, and Wofu Badge 2, and all of my other lovely, lovely, lovely patrons. And if you too would like your name read out at the end of every single YouTube video I do on this channel, as well as having the ability to vote on new episodes of the Comic Book Book Club as they come out, feel free to hop on over to my Patreon and donate at least $15 or more. Or hey, if that's not an option, even $1 helps. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you guys for your patience. And I will see you guys next time.